It's a beautiful season of my life. Oceanside is 3 weeks away. I've been completely dialed in on work and training. And the most important aspect in all this, my mindset's locked.
More and more I've been leaning on fitness as the thing that proves to myself that I'm not stuck, that I'm doing okay.
And yet at the same time, a new goal has been building inside me. And that's what this video is all about.
Rest in peace to the world as it ends as we know it. That is pulling up and taking over the road. He was at the top, take a look at who's in office. Sometimes I think that it's too late to stop it. RIP X, RIP Pete, RIP Mac.
I am not a man of science. I'm a man of faith. Really what that means is that I just cannot get myself to look at the metrics for things too deeply. It gets too complicated and I don't get things done. Life is messy enough as it is. For me to figure out the details of a training program and realize that I need to run at 65 or 70% of my heart rate, it just doesn't do it for me. You know, most days I just wake up and I decide what I want to do, and then I go out and do some version of that. More or less, I coach myself. Now, a book that I've read recently is The Norwegian Method, which is all about how Norwegians have all of these lifestyle habits and things that they've accommodated for that have allowed them to perform exceedingly well when it comes to endurance. Now, notably, endurance and speed has come to mean something to me because when I started out my fitness journey, I was pretty heavy. I was coming off the pandemic and was 27% body fat in August of 2021. And one of the great milestones that I achieved just 8, 9, 10 months after starting my fitness journey was getting to a sub 6 minute mile. You know how I did it? I just ran all the time. I would run 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles at a time. Occasionally I would do speed work on the track, but in that era of my life, I didn't really know the benefit of speed work that much. So I would just run, just go out there, run hard. Eventually I worked my way up to doing 10-mile long runs. And then eventually the longest I did in that season of my life was 12 miles in one go. And it was a spiritual experience for me. I realized I was getting faster when I first tested my mile. This was around April of 2022. I clocked in at 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And you could just hear it in my voice. You could tell I was an out of shape guy at the time. By June of that year, I hit sub 6 minutes, and I would just test a mile all the time to get to that level. It has now been almost 3 years since that era of my life, and I feel called to get fast again. In fact, one of the ambitions that I've been chasing ever since I started this whole fitness journey was a 500-pound deadlift and a sub 5-minute mile on the same day. There's a handful of guys who I know have achieved this. A more extreme variation of this is a 500-pound squat and a sub 5-minute mile on the same day. And Adam Klink, who's a CrossFit athlete, I think he's on the BPN team. He's one of the original people training for this. Obviously, Fergus Crawley is huge in the hybrid athlete space, and he's done the same thing. He hit a 500-pound deadlift and sub 5-minute mile on the same day. Sorry, 500-pound squat and sub 5-minute mile on the same day. So I think it's a huge testament to the idea of being both strong and fast, having a really high VO2 max to go after this goal. After this winter block, I improved my deadlift a lot and got it up to 405 pounds for 6 reps, even though I'd been dieting most of this period. That would put me at around a 1 rep max of 485. I'm shocked that my deadlift is so good, but really it's just because I have good hinges for it. Even though when I pulled that weight, I was around 165 pounds, which is my, resting weight right now. And then the other day, just because this curiosity had been building in me, I went out and I tested my mile. Now, I had no idea what to go for in terms of paces or effort or any of that stuff. So I just sort of went off feel. I had no idea what I was going for. And I landed at a 6'11", which shocked me because, there was no speed work done these last 16 weeks, really. Since my last marathon effort in October, I really didn't go for any speed work. So I'm still decently fast. You hold on to it pretty naturally. I ran a 3:21 marathon in October of this year, and me having just clocked in a 6:11 mile, it's about the same equivalent. It means my VDOT calculator, my VDOT score, is still about a 47. A 6:11 mile is more or less equivalent to a 3:21 marathon. So my fitness has held, it's more or less maintained. Maybe it's gone back slightly, but I've also gotten stronger in this period of time. So I'm chasing it again. The ambition is here. Roger Bannister broke the sub 4-minute mile in the 1950s, and he more or less just trained himself. He was a full-time medical school student. He really didn't make his training too complicated. I think that's what works best for me. So I'm getting back out there. It is once again an era of speed, and I'm excited to pursue it again. So here's a few ideas that I've been thinking about when it comes to getting faster and now working towards a sub 5-minute mile. The first idea is this: 400 meter repeats on the track, 800 meter repeats on the track, 1 time per week. I think I'm trying to get to this goal within 12 weeks time, which is way too ambitious. According to Jack Daniels' book on the V.Dot score, you can only improve your score by like 1 point, maybe 2 points every 4 to 6 weeks. So if I'm at 47 right now, I would need to get it up to 60. So that should take me like, over a year to get it to that point, but I think I can do it faster because I'm just not mile specific trained. And this is gonna sound crazy, but I'm more or less just going to train myself. I'm gonna coach myself to get this result. I've hired coaches for everything in the past when it comes to testing the mile, marathon, even Ironman. I just don't stick to anything that anyone ever says. I just kind of follow my own intuition, at least when it comes to endurance. So that's what I'm gonna do. The goal here is just to show up to the track 1 time per week for the next 12 weeks and see what happens. That's it. I think with so many of our goals, you make it so complicated, but like, what is the heart? What is the 80% basics of getting faster? It's showing up to the track. Now, my track is 22 minutes away, so it's a little bit of a haul, or at least a little bit of a thought process annoyance to make it out to the track. But it's one of those most reliable ways for me in this era of my life to just get better. To get faster, it's not everything. Just like getting stronger, getting leaner, all of these things, they don't carry that much weight. But when it comes to fitness, it's one of those things in your life that you can definitely do. Fitness is not my life's work. It's not my life's passion, but I've created an entire second channel around fitness just because it is always something I'm going to be able to control. Fitness and skill acquisition. In every single era of my life, no matter whether a Hollywood agent is calling me or not, no matter if my main YouTube channel is getting views or not, no one can take the fact that I'm getting faster and stronger and whatever, more muscular and leaner. No one can take those things away from me. Those are things I give to myself, and they stick with me the most out of any pursuit that I have. This vessel is something that I'm gonna have to carry for forever, till the day I drop. So why would I not take it to the highest level possible and keep it at a high level for the rest of my life? It's an ambition that maybe I invest too heavily in, but I see nothing else worth investing in to the same degree outside of relationships. And even my relationships, they do so much better when I've got the juice, when I got the gas in the tank. So that's what it is, man. We're just showing up to the track once a week. 400 meter repeats, 800 meter repeats. If I want to specifically get good at the mile, then perhaps it would be valuable to actually do like 100 meter sprints or 200 meter runs, but I don't want to. So I'm not going to. And I don't want to do 600 because it's a weird distance. That means I have to run a full lap around once and then halfway again. I mean, I guess I could do it and then I could just walk back to the start line where my videographer hangs out, but I don't want to. I like 400 and I like 800, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's just what it is. Second idea is half tights. This sounds a little bit crazy or cringe because it's literally about apparel, but I've been investing in the right apparel with fitness pretty intensely in this last season. My favorite shorts are actually the Luka shorts from Legends. I've also liked the 7-inch tactical shorts from 10,000, which I've worn with the liner, both pairs of shorts with the liners. I don't like super short shorts. The lowest shorts I have are like 5 inches, but any shorter than that, it starts to look pretty sus. So I don't like having super short shorts. I like 7 inches because it's stately, it's extremely straight to have a 7-inch short, and I like that. But I've been investing more in half tights. In fact, I recently formed a partnership with Wallaco. They have super high-end tights, half tights for sprinting and distance work, and I've got a pair of their distance shorts in Mars and Heather Gray and even Navy, and then I'm also picking up a pair of their half tights for speed work. And it's interesting because you can carry your gels and your phone case so easily, and there's just no friction in your running. It invokes a sense of speed. You feel like running faster because the fit is so accurate. Also, the thing with half tights is that any excess body fat you have on your frame, it hangs over you. You can't really hide it that well. So it's incredible motivation to be lean. Now, right now my body fat is clocking in at 11.7%, and that's just because I've put on a little bit of strength. These last 12 weeks, I've just been deadlifting a lot and overhead pressing and even benching. So just in an effort to get stronger, I have found myself eating a little bit more. 11.7, but I think I'm going to just clean it up these next four weeks and get it back to sub 10%, at least on an in-body scan. On a DEXA fit, I don't know what I'd be. I'm sure I'd still be 13 or 14%. But for me to feel healthy with a sense of performance on InBody, I like to be around 10 or 11%, 11% at the highest. I also feel that that's just where I look. I still have great energy levels, but I look aesthetic. But yeah, I think it's worth investing in a pair of half tights or whatever sentiment of apparel does well for you. If you want to check out Wallaco, you can actually get 15% off. You can use my link in the description box. I've officially become a partner and an ambassador with them, which is exciting. I had to reach out to them to get this deal going, but I wanted to. You know, I want to start working with more fitness brands, and so I'm excited. Though just the fact that I have half tights now, it motivates me to do more speed work. It motivates me to sprint. The third idea is the long run. I think the long run is still valuable when it comes to building endurance, just having that cardiovascular health, you know, having that VO2 max as high as possible. One of the things that I learned from this book, The Norwegian Method, is how valuable it is to train at elevation. I heard that term being thrown around here or there, you know, train at elevation, but I never did it for myself, or, you know, obviously it's an expense to go spend like a month somewhere, or ideally you spend more than 3 weeks somewhere to really get the benefits, acclimatizing to a higher altitude and then training in those conditions. But it forces your body to actually release different molecules that make you just use up oxygen consumption more efficiently. That's what I'm coming to realize. So, you know, one day, maybe when I have the means and I can leave Minnesota more reliably in January and February, I might actually take a month or two to go to Flagstaff, Arizona or Park City, Utah to train at 7,000 meters elevation and just get really fit in those off seasons where in Minnesota it's like 10 degrees, you know, 0 degrees. It's just hard to get anything done out here when it comes to running outside for those 2 months. So I end up swimming in that era a lot more than just running because like things don't work as well. But you know, my physiology, it works better when it's 30 degrees or above. That's something that's really motivated me in that regard. But the long run is still valuable because it just ramps up that endurance and VO2 max. The difference here now is that I'm probably going to cap my long runs at 10 miles. 10, maybe 13 miles on the highest end. And when I am training longer runs, I'm going to force myself to pick up the pace a little bit. It is important to push it. You know, if you want to get faster at the mile, you have to get used to that suffocating discomfort, which is running super, super fast. And so for me, you know, I think 10 miles at 7:20 pace, you know, that's plenty to get that kind of stimulus. It's more like an upbeat tempo run, but the long run should not be neglected. And then the last idea is more philosophical, but it's more so this idea to consider the fact that we don't do these things for the goals themselves. You know, I'm already a sub 6 minute miler. I know if I just try it one more time, I'm sure I'll get sub 6. So it's not about the mile time because sub 6, sub 5, even though sub 5 is dramatically harder than sub 6, it's more so the fact that it creates possibility in your life to work towards these things. It reminds you continually that you are not stuck, that there's a ton that is left there for the taking for you. And I find that incredibly exciting. I was able to get to a sub 6 minute mile just 8 or 9 months after being kind of fat. And if I'm being honest with myself, kind of a drunk during the pandemic. It was the only era of my life in which I would kind of consistently drink alcohol by myself. And I'm not the only person who has that story. And yet 10 months after that fact, after being in kind of a slump, I ran that sub 6, man. And it was transformative in that era of my life. Even when I ran that, I'm sure my fitness wasn't crazy high because, you know, one begins to realize it takes years to get it to a super high level with fitness. But I'm starting to turn that corner from being an amateur or a novice to a true intermediate, or maybe even a high level intermediate with a number of different things, you know, with strength, with body composition, and now with speed and endurance too, even skill, things like swimming. I'm progressing very nicely, and I'm 32 years old. I think I can take this whole thing a lot further, and I know I'm going to carry it with the rest of my life. It's going to fuel me in my ambitions to make it as an actor, to make it as a director, to make it as a creative and a direct, you know, someone who wants to make art and move people with it. I think fitness is the ideal thing to bring with me on this journey, and eventually it's also going to give me the fuel to live with integrity and have a family and all that stuff. So it's an exciting ambition ahead. We're chasing a sub 5 minute mile, and I'd love to have you join me on the journey. If you enjoyed this video, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to see more behind the scenes content at nrajapandey. If you liked the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Check out those Wallaco half tights if you haven't, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.